Saturday Night Live Alec Baldwin playing Donald Trump's meeting with Kanye West, and if I mispronunciate these clowns' names, I really don't care. I really don't care. What I'm here to talk to you about is how pop culture and politics often play hand in hand to mesmerize the population. Okay, so we're actually going to play the audio. I'm going to avoid playing the video and getting any copyright hits, but we're going to play at least some of the audio. And by the way, I'm looking forward to getting my own lavalier microphone, USB lavalier microphone in about a week. So I can kind of course, ditch the physical microphone that I'm holding now and focus more on some of the things. But instead of showing you the video, right, I want you to go ahead and hear some of this for yourself. But just as an introduction, I think that the politicians and the media work together to control the narrative when it comes to the president being criticized. I would direct you to examples of George W. Bush being portrayed on Saturday Night Live. I would direct you to depictions of Barack Obama on Saturday Night Live. So a lot of people are playing into the system's hand by thinking that SNL and the media represents a real criticism of the president. Current examples don't equate to one. Past examples don't equate to one. If we don't learn from history, are we doomed to repeat it? I would say that we are repeating history. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and play the audio of this. And I am going to share my points.
President Trump, rapper Kanye West, and football legend Jim Brown. Among the issues discussed were prison reform, education, alternate universes, Superman, and flying cars. We go now to President Trump in the Oval Office.
Hello. Thank you all for joining us today for this important discussion. It's in no way a publicity stunt. This is a serious private conversation between three friends, plus 50 reporters with cameras. I'm proud to welcome Kanye West, Yeezus, Yandi, Yadam, Yosain. An amazing guy. Thank you for coming, Kanye.
Yeah, that's right. I flew here using the power of this hat.
That's terrific. We've also got Hall of Fame running back and civil rights advocate Jim Brown. Many people know he was a great lacrosse player. How are you feeling, Jim?
Already pretty nervous.
These two are great, dear friends of mine, a couple of real Chicago types, if you know what I mean. And Kanye, I want to thank you for giving me a pair of your sneakers. They're perfect for me because they're white, they're wide, and they're never going to be worth as much as you say they are. We've got an amazing lunch to get to, but first I'm sure that Kanye wants to make one or two brief, lucid remarks. Kanye.
First, let me begin with the idea that time is a myth of infinite amounts of universe, and I'm a prisoner in a different dimension.
Okay. That's a place where we're going to stop, and we're going to come back. So this is actually a complicated psyops to most people, and so the best way to approach this is outside the left-right paradigm. So suspend your political bias and see the system as a system that uses and just consider the hypothesis a variety of individuals that people think actually represent them, but in fact don't. Okay, now that you can understand that, if you could think about past politicians, it's important to understand that a lot of these people are guild actors. I've been discussing this with regards to Bush, who I don't think was really as dumb as a monkey. I think that was a real insult to those of us that were watching the situation, to think that, an idiot or a monkey man, someone that looks like, the caricature from Mad Magazine. He was placed there for a specific reason and project a certain image. And it paved the way for Barack Obama, and Barack Obama paved the way for Donald Trump. And so when you see like these White House correspondent dinner parties where they're basically roasted, we got to see an example of George Bush's very war, in a way mocked before his very eyes, or some of his ideas at least. in a controlled manner. Stephen Colbert was there, I believe, or The Daily Show. So we could see literally coordination on that level between Comedy Central and the Bush administration during a White House Correspondents' Dinner years ago. We can also see with Barack Obama ways in which it was designed to make him look hip, slick, and cool. There are also Saturday Night Live bits that was highlighting our debt to China, with the character playing Barack Obama saying to China over and over, "You're going to get your money." And the actors playing the Chinese government saying that, they wanted to get kissed before they get, indicating that that's what the U.S. was doing to them. So how do they work together, and what is the grand agenda? To destroy us from within through the hijacked politicians and the media that highlights their erroneous errors and really the lack of charisma, lack of intelligence, obvious means of trying to propagandize. They help in the destruction of the American image by design because they're serving globalist agendas, global agendas, elite agendas that most people don't understand. And so a lot of things will come through SNL. A lot of things will come through the mainstream media, and a lot of people won't be able to read between the lines. I believe it was Freeman Fly that talked about Bill Clinton being used, in essence, himself. The whole Monica Lewinsky thing being about, the deconstruction or the demonization or the takedown of the American leader and having a more deliberate intention in affecting our psyche and sense of self, even self-worth, perhaps even other things. So this is something that I've heard him say in some of his content in the past, that this was his thinking. And that thinking, I would say, definitely applies to every president since Bill Clinton has been in office. I believe that it applies to George Bush. I believe that it applies to Barack Obama. It applies even more to Donald Trump. Who knows what we're going to be dealing with after this? Right? But there is not a lot of logic at this point behind the philosophies of defending the state, and merging our own personality and our own interests, and our own understanding and definition of tribe with that of the state. And I say that in like a larger sense of the word, not just the literal state or the state that you happen to be in, whether you're in California, Oregon, Colorado, New York, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi. I'm sure we have some viewers in the South, Tennessee, also up in Idaho. Hello, Texas. Let's not forget Montana. So anyway, this is how people interpret their reality, to talk about this from another angle. Ha ha, he. And, it's also, we'll go back and hear a clip in a little bit, how a lot of people get their news about what modern politics, what's going on. And so to a lot of people, this is news. This is reality. Kanye West, and I know I'm butchering his name, who cares, sits down with Donald Trump. First of all, let me say this, and we'll go back to the clip. This is what's kind of ridiculous about the whole thing. Where do I put this? I've talked to you about how they use certain individuals, and often with their knowing, to demonize certain topics. So who's to say this Mr. West character, and more than likely he isn't a puppet? He more than likely is a puppet to portray a certain message. Obviously, there's been some tensions between elements of the African-American population, Donald Trump, over a number of issues. Here's Kanye West. So what is this deal? Look how certain people that aren't even in the hip-hop genre have been dropping his name for the Google keywords and the search engine results. I'm at least going to discuss it because it's a current event, but I have a different spin on it. Here's a perfect example of something that's been in the media eye that has been a manufactured gathering of the minds. By adding in the conspiratorial element, here he is talking about time travel. Apparently, Kanye West is constantly in the media for talking about one thing or the other. Mind control is the latest. Hey, I talk about mind control. I talk about psychic self-defense. It sounds like he's talking about these things. Is this a deliberate move? Even still, something that was really started by Alex Jones? Would it be a surprise that Alex Jones would cover Kanye West and what he says? But Kanye West following in Alex Jones' direction. So when people think conspiracy or waking up or going beyond time and going beyond limitations, that they think about people like Kanye West, and then they associate that with Donald Trump. And I've done an amazing job, folks. I'm proud of myself. I really do pat myself on the back. I've stayed out of viewing a lot of this content, a lot of these interviews, even psychoanalyzing Donald Trump or attacking him personally, but talking about him being a player in the machine. Just like I am that voice on They Live that is asking the people to wake up in a authentic sense and not just blame it on one party. But I think there's been a lot of power of suggestion. And a lot of people that have been associated with some of these themes, right? They can put up someone like Kanye West who's talking about the things that he's talking about and tweeting about the things that he's tweeting about, and set him next to Donald Trump. And there's a way in which people are subconsciously affected by that programming. Let's go back to the audio.
Have I lost anyone so far? Okay, so I'm going to talk about trap doors. Like the 13th Amendment is a trap door. And if you're installing a floor, okay, aka the Constitution, why would you build a trap door when you could end up with the Unabomber?
Oh, this guy might be cuckoo. I've been in the room with Dennis Rodman and Kim Jong-un, and they made a lot more sense than him.
And then if you eat in Chicago, some people call it Chirac, but the murder rate is going down 20% every year. And pretty soon it's going to be a negative murder rate. We're going to be digging bodies out of the ground.
Oh, this guy can talk. He doesn't stop. He doesn't listen to anyone but himself. Who does he remind me of?
And I don't want to brag, bro. I don't want to brag, but I really have a high IQ. I'm a stable genius. I got a big brain, and I got the best words.
Oh, my God, he's black me. This is like...
And I don't really know how much I want to play of this. So there are people that will go out there and they will play up the narcissistic mentality to make certain ideas look bad and to look extra kooky. And in a lot of cases, these are some of the very first times in which people are exposed to certain ideas. So they see celebrities and politicians dancing around certain ideas. And with their help, of course, the public develops an anger towards politicians. The people really defensive around the president now need to friggin' relax. Natural distrust of authority has been growing in this country since 9/11. Okay, even if one of us was to really like somebody or myself, that doesn't mean that all these different host of issues, Patriot Act included, and others, drone attacks included, that doesn't mean that those things all of a sudden go to the wayside. Why does this even have to be reminded to certain people? But let's bring it to center, SNL. So even though SNL plays the controlled argument in the left-right divide, they're never really going after Bush. They're never really going after Obama. Right? They're not really going after Trump. They're creating bread and circus entertainment out of it, and people will literally get all emotional and upset without realizing that SNL, NBC, Donald Trump are both serving the interests of Westinghouse and the military-industrial complex. And so I really want to bring this to your attention because this is the modern idiocracy that we are living in today.